rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, and then shall the end come.
Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?
Welcome to this month's Revelation in the News. We're going today to look at many of the prominent prophecies of the Bible for our times right now and explain how each of these things are in the process of being fulfilled. We live in the era when we have more prophecies than any other era in the history of mankind. Now, before the first coming of Jesus, they had about 100 prophecies, and Jesus fulfilled every single one of them, down to the most minute detail. Now, that was just before the first coming. Here we are, just before the second coming of Jesus to the earth. We don't have 100 prophecies. We probably have closer to 1,000. And every one of them either has been fulfilled or is in the process of being fulfilled or will soon be fulfilled. We want to talk about some of those things today. The Bible prophesies in Revelation 9, verse 13 through 16, a war that will kill 1/3 of mankind. Now that means it'll be a world war. We've had 2 world wars in the history of mankind so far. We've had World War I, World War II. Well, this one will be 40 times World War II, which certainly qualifies it to be named World War III. The Bible says this war will begin from the Euphrates River area. It was back in December of 2015 that President Obama and Vladimir Putin struck a secret agreement because both of them were fighting against ISIS up and down the Euphrates River. There was a real danger that there could be a clash between the 2 superpowers, which nobody wanted. So they reached this agreement that Russia would fight ISIS on the west side of the Euphrates, and America would fight ISIS on the east side of the Euphrates. So that's what has happened from that time until right now. And that's ongoing today. Now, what's the point? The point is that the world's 2 nuclear superpowers, possessing 90% of the world's nuclear weapons, are fighting up and down the Euphrates. And this prophecy says that the war will begin from the Euphrates River. And that's where we are right now. We don't know how quickly all of this will come to pass. All we know is that President Trump has promised to crush ISIS. We're fighting ISIS in Mosul, up in northeastern Iraq. We're also going against ISIS soon in Raqqa in Syria. So the battle is on. Now, the only big question is, will this be the war called the 6th trumpet war, prophesied in Revelation chapter number 9 and verse number 13 through 16? Now, while we're thinking about this particular prophecy, I want to remind you, we're not telling you this might happen. Everything prophesied in the Bible always comes to pass. The only question is when. is the present conflict up and down the Euphrates. And oh, by the way, the Euphrates is a 100% Islamic river. So, is this present conflict we're in, is it the war that is prophesied to kill 1/3 of mankind? If it is going to escalate dramatically. We'll have to wait and see whether this is the war that we're presently in or whether it's something yet to come. We don't look forward to this war. It will be the worst nightmare the world has ever seen, but it is, in fact, coming. Now, the Bible prophesies another huge prophetic fulfillment. And by the way, these first two prophecies, when they do come to pass, will be the two greatest prophetic fulfillments since the first coming of Jesus and since his crucifixion and resurrection. So we're not talking about something small here. We are talking about huge prophetic fulfillments. The one we're talking about now is the Middle East peace agreement. Now, I love this particular prophetic fulfillment because it is one of the only prophetic fulfillments that actually has a timeline attached to it. Now, the Middle East peace agreement is prophesied in Daniel 9, verse number 27. It simply states there that the Abrahamic covenant will be confirmed by the Antichrist, and this will trigger a final 7-year period culminating at the Battle of Armageddon and the second coming of Jesus Christ. The Middle East peace agreement is the agreement that President Trump has stated, I want to do that deal. I'm not sure I can, but that would be the ultimate deal, and I want to try. And is he ever trying right now? Already early in his administration, he has met with most of the leaders in the Middle East that would have to be parties to this peace agreement. He's met with King Abdullah once, getting ready to meet with him again this coming Wednesday. He also met with Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, for quite a long time and had a press conference with him. He's meeting with President al-Sisi of Egypt today. So we're watching Donald Trump in full motion. He's also met with the Deputy Prince of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is a very strategic player in all this because Saudi Arabia put forth the Saudi Peace Initiative in 2002, which all the Arab states embraced. They said, if Israel will do this, then we will all make peace with her and normalize relations with her. The conditions in the Saudi Peace Initiative were that Israel would withdraw to 1967 borders and work out a solution to the Arab refugee problem. Well, Israel has not been willing to withdraw to 1967 borders because, number one, that means that Israel would surrender half of the city of Jerusalem, which she is not willing to do under any condition because they consider that the city where God chose to place his name there. All of these things are under discussion right now. Now, not only has President Trump spent a considerable amount of time meeting with Arab leaders and also with some Israeli leaders, but his special representative, Jason Greenblatt, has met with Middle Eastern leaders almost continually. Now, Jason Greenblatt has been in the employ of the Trump organization for 20 years. He breathes together with Donald Trump. He knows the mind of Donald Trump. And oh, by the way, he himself is an Orthodox Jew, and he practices Judaism. So here he is now going to talk to all of these leaders. He has already met with Benjamin Netanyahu. He's met with Mahmoud Abbas. He's met with King Abdullah of Jordan. He has also met with several other leaders in the Middle East. Furthermore, there was a summit held on March the 29th in Jordan on the east side of the Dead Sea. Greenblatt was one of the first Western leaders ever to be invited there. He went there, and while there, he spoke with the foreign minister of Qatar. He met again with Mahmoud Abbas. He has been very busy establishing relationships because he and Donald Trump's number one goal is to work out a peace agreement in the Middle East. If this would happen, it would be historic. President Trump called it the deal of the 21st century because everybody's tried to get peace in the Middle East and everyone has failed, all the way from Clinton to Bush to Carter to Obama. They've all tried and failed. But Donald Trump wrote the book, The Art of the Deal, and he thinks he could possibly accomplish this. Now, the interesting thing is, Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the Palestinians, the one person that could torpedo a Middle East peace agreement, Abbas has said that he thinks that Trump is sincere and that there is a real chance for a peace deal right now in the Middle East. Well, time will tell. But let's look at some other clues as to Revelation being fulfilled in our news right now. The Bible says under this peace agreement, the Temple Mount will be shared. It's hard to see that in the present climate because right now, even though Israel captured the Temple Mount in the 1967 war, they immediately placed it back under the administration of the Muslims. Since the Al-Aqsa Mosque is there and since the Dome of the Rock is there, they invited the Muslim Waqf to come back and to oversee the Temple Mount, which they have been doing since 1967. Now, over time, the Muslim Waqf have tightened their control on the Temple Mount till today. No Jew is allowed to pray there. You can't take any holy books there. Christians are also not allowed to pray. Christians are not allowed to take Bibles there. The only worship allowed on the Temple Mount is Muslim worship. Now, this is a real travesty from the Jewish point of view because that's the place where God himself said, I will put my name there. That's where Israel's first temple stood. That's where their second temple stood. And now the religious Jews want to build their third temple. They've not had a temple since 70 AD when the Romans destroyed it in Jerusalem. Now then they're back to Jerusalem and they want to build their third temple on the Temple Mount. Well, the Muslims say it's not going to happen. However, if Israel wanted to, she has the military might to go in and take over the Temple Mount, but she doesn't dare because that means she would go to war against 1.6 billion Muslims, and Israel doesn't want anything to do with that. So what's going to happen? The Bible says in Revelation 11, verse 1 and 2, that the Temple Mount is going to be placed under a sharing arrangement. How will that come about? Well, let me tell you, there's already people talking about it. One of the Knesset members in Israel has submitted a law to the Israeli Knesset putting the Temple Mount under a sharing arrangement. They say it's just not right. The Muslims, they won't allow Jews to even pray there. If a Jew goes there and prays, they're arrested and hauled off. And the Jews aren't going to put up with that forever because to them, this is the holiest place on earth. So there's already a law that's been submitted to the Knesset to put the Temple Mount under a sharing arrangement. Benjamin Netanyahu, in understanding the volatility of such a law, has asked them to put that on the back burner. So it's hid somewhere in committee right now, but it's there nonetheless. And there are Jewish lawmakers that fully intend to bring it out when the time is right. So when will the time be right? It's going to be right when they negotiate a peace deal between Palestinians and Israelis, because the Bible teaches explicitly that the Temple Mount is going to be placed under a sharing arrangement, and it also states that the temple will be rebuilt on the Temple Mount. Now, how feasible is that? There's not been a temple for 2,000 long years, but the dream has never died. Religious Jews 3 times a day have faced Jerusalem toward their temple and have prayed there for the last 2,000 years. Now then, after the 67 war, there was a person that was participating in that war, Israel, Ariel, and a dream was born in his heart during the 67 war, when the Temple Mount was recaptured, that he should prepare for the building of Israel's third temple. And he's done that. The Temple Institute, over the last 20 years, have rebuilt all of the vessels, all of the furniture, all the utensils that would be required for the resumption of animal sacrifice on the Temple Mount. But they've got to have their temple first. I'm talking about, if you visit the Temple Institute in Jerusalem, you can see the brazen altar where the animals are to be killed. You can see the laver where the priests are to wash. I'm not talking about replicas. I'm talking about the very items that they intend to use shortly in the rebuilt temple. You can see the candelabra. You can see the altar of incense. You can see the table of shewbread. And believe it or not, as of November 2013, you now can see the Ark of the Covenant. I know because I've done it several times. They have now built an Ark of the Covenant according to biblical instructions. And they will use that until they find the original Ark, if they ever do. No one knows whether they will or not, but the Temple Institute is leaving nothing undone. They've got all of the garments for the priests to wear. They've got everything prepared. And now then they're conducting a training program for young priests to teach them how to do the sacrifices properly according to the book of Leviticus that's outlined in great detail in the Old Testament. So what I'm telling you is that the prophecies for now are coming to pass now. You know, even if you don't believe in God or don't believe in the Bible, if you study these prophecies, they'll make you to know. I mean, these prophecies are so supernatural that no one could have foretold these things 2,000 years ahead of time, 2,500 years ahead of time. We actually have produced 14 DVDs called Understanding the End Time. Every person on earth right now should go through those 14 DVDs. I challenge you. If you don't believe in God, I don't believe you can go through those DVDs and still not believe in God. If you don't believe in the validity of the Bible, I do not believe you can go through those 14 DVDs without coming away with an awe of how accurate the Bible actually is. I mean, in those DVDs, we show you where the United States is in the Bible, which modern nations will be part of the one world government of the end time, which nations will be part of the kingdom of the Antichrist, where the Antichrist and the false prophet will come from. So if you'd like to have your own copy of Understanding the End Time, give us a call. The number to call is 1-800-END-TIME, or you can go to our website, endtime.com. That's 1-800-ENDTIME. Let's return to the prophecies for now. The Bible foretells the rebirth of the Holy Roman Empire. It tells us that both the Antichrist and the false prophet will come out of the Holy Roman Empire. The Holy Roman Empire ruled Europe from 800 AD until 1806, 1,000 years. However, it was declared dead in 1806. So everyone thought, how's this prophecy going to work? That the Antichrist and the false prophet must come out of the Holy Roman Empire. Well, surprise, surprise, on November the 3rd, 2009, the Holy Roman Empire was reborn when Europe signed a new constitution, and they know they're rebuilding the Holy Roman Empire. The European Union is the rebuilt Holy Roman Empire, and that's where the Antichrist is coming from, and that's where the false prophet is coming from. There's so much we could say. Each of these items, we could talk for an hour about it. But we're going, just giving an overview today. The Bible prophesies a one world government. It's called globalism. Now, the leaders of the world have been believing for a while that the nation state structure of the world was outdated. They have been believing that we have to move to a new way to rule the world because nations fight and enter into wars. They're looking for a way to have peace on earth. So what they've done, they've dreamed up this idea of globalization. We're going to get rid of all the armies of the world. We're going to melt our boundaries. That's the reason President Obama did not enforce the boundaries. That's the reason Hillary Clinton said, don't build walls, build bridges, because she believes in a new world order, a one world governmental system. However, Donald Trump does not buy into this concept. He says we have to reestablish our borders because if you don't have borders, you don't have a nation. And of course, that's true. They don't want a nation, the people that embrace globalism. They believe in a new world order, a one world governmental system. That's the reason we have the World Bank, the World Court, the World Health Organization, the World Trade Organization. These are all global structures that have been prepared over the years for this global dream of one world government. That's where we are right now. But globalism is going to succeed. The Antichrist will rule a one world government. However, not every nation will participate. The Bible specifically states that some nations will not be a part of the one world government. 3 of those nations are Jordan, Israel, and America. Jordan and Israel are America's closest friends in the Middle East. Where does the Bible say America won't be part of the world government? In Revelation chapter 13, verse 1 through 2, it depicts there a combined beast with the body of the leopard, which is Germany, feet of the bear, which is Russia, mouth of the lion, which is Great Britain, and the 10 horns of the 10-horn kingdom that will soon emerge out of Europe. But it's interesting that America is not there. Now, in the Old Testament, America is listed as the eagle's wings. But when you get to the New Testament, the book of Revelation, America is not in the combo beast. So what's happened to the United States of America? We obviously have decided not to participate in the one world governmental system because one chapter before that in Revelation chapter number 12, we're depicted as defending Israel against the one world government and the ruler of that one world government, the Antichrist. Well, what are we doing right now? Although President Obama appeared to be selling Israel down the river, well, actually he did. He supported Resolution 2334. So he was no friend of Israel. But now then Donald Trump comes along and says, we will stand by our friend Israel no matter what. Well, the Bible prophesies that's going to happen. The Bible prophesies that Israel will be attacked by the Antichrist, but that America will defend Israel in the times just ahead of us. And we can see it developing right now, right in front of our eyes. The Bible also prophesies that in the end times, I'm talking about just before the second coming of Jesus to the earth, every person on earth will be given a global ID, at least every person that lives under the power of the Antichrist and his one world government. Now, there's a lot of people that are pushing a global ID for right now. Even in the United States of America, we've always resisted a national ID. We've always said, no, we don't want to be tracked. We don't want to be controlled. However, over the last 2 administrations, they have slipped an ID in on us. It's called the Real ID. And starting 2018, you will not fly on an airplane unless you have a government-approved federal ID card. It will become a national ID. Now, this will not just be national. The Bible says every person will have to have a mark or a number without which they cannot buy or sell. We live in a time when the cashless society is on the horizon. In Sweden today, there are 1,600 banks 900 of those 1,600 have no cash. You cannot deposit cash there. You cannot receive cash there because they want to move to a cashless society. And this is not just Sweden. It's sweeping throughout America. In India today, they've given all of their citizens ID cards because they plan to make that the key to access government help, government services, everything you say or do. If you want to get a job, you'll have to have your national ID. And that's the way it already is in most of the countries of the world. So the Bible is true. These prophecies, 2,000 years old, they could never be fulfilled until the day of the computer and the internet. But now then they're coming right down Main Street at us. Finally, the Bible says the world community will invade Israel. On December the 23rd of 2016, the United Nations passed a resolution which will ultimately lead to the invasion of Israel by the world community. The resolution simply said that all of the territory that Israel captured during the 67 war, she is in illegally, including East Jerusalem. And Israel's presence there is a flagrant violation of international law. Now, the UN cannot enforce that right now because the United States of America enjoys veto power at the United Nations. We can veto anything that they want to do. President Obama could have vetoed that resolution, but he didn't want to. He stabbed Israel in the back. But here we sit. We are in the end time right now. And all of these prophecies, I've just gone very quickly over them today, but they all teach us that we are in the end time. We're not saying the end time is coming. We are saying we are in the end time right now. So one more time, if you have not yet gotten your copy of Understanding the End Time, 14 one-hour DVDs, you go through this course, you'll know more about Bible prophecy than 95% of the graduates from theological seminary. To get your own copy, the number to call, 1-800-END-TIME, that's 1-800-363-8463.
From Here to Armageddon, a new exciting 8-lesson series to share with your friends and family. Order yours right away.
Answering many questions like how far are we from the Battle of Armageddon? What will happen between now and then? Where are we on the timeline? Your questions answered in this exciting 8-lesson series, From Here to Armageddon.
Go to endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-END-TIME, 1-800-363-8463. Order yours right away.
Today I have some exciting news to share with you. You can now become a magazine subscriber for life. You will receive first-class benefits that will include a lifetime membership to End Time Magazine, as well as an unlimited access to the digital version of the magazine. You will also receive 20% off of all future orders at endtime.com, well, at least till the rapture happens. Never worry about missing one important issue or forgetting to renew. You can rest assured when something happens in the news pertaining to Bible prophecy, you will be informed with the most recent cutting-edge material available. End Time Magazine has been the forefront of End Time Ministries since the beginning, and we would love to join with you in this first ever opportunity of becoming a magazine subscriber for life. Join today by calling 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463, or go to endtime.com.
If your station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com and click the watch button to continue today's broadcast. You can also finish up later by clicking the archives button.
We will be taking your calls in this segment of the program. The number to call to be on the air with me, 877-END-TIME. That's 877-363-8463. To reach our operators, maybe you want to become a lifetime subscriber to End Time Magazine. Perhaps you'd like to become a partner with End Time. We'd love for you to do that. The number to call for that is 800-END-TIME. So to reach our operators, 800-END-TIME. To reach me, 877-END-TIME. Before we go to the phones, let me just remind you that President Trump just finished spending 2.5 hours with President al-Sisi of Egypt. Now, why is this so important? Well, Egypt traditionally has been the most powerful Arab country in the Middle East. However, Mr. Mubarak, who was our longtime friend, President Obama yanked the rug out from under him and supported the revolution that toppled him from power. Well, when that happened, then elections were held and the Muslim Brotherhood was elected. Well, when the Muslim Brotherhood came to power, they began to immediately impose Sharia law on Egypt. When the people realized what this really entailed, they didn't want that. So they appealed to their military to reverse the action of the election. Al-Sisi led that assault and overthrew the Muslim Brotherhood government and established his own government in Egypt. He has now been restoring religious liberty. He's been stopping the implementation of Sharia law. And now then he is visiting our president at the White House today. Now al-Sisi is playing a very prominent role in fighting against ISIS. ISIS has invaded northern Egypt, and that's really critical because that's up around the Suez Canal. ISIS also has gotten quite a stronghold there and frankly is winning the battle against the Egyptian forces right now. Furthermore, al-Sisi has sided with Israel against Hamas. Hamas has wanted to do a lot of things, and now then al-Sisi is supporting the peace efforts of President Trump, along with the leader of Jordan, King Abdullah. So President Trump is meeting with al-Sisi today. He's meeting with King Abdullah day after tomorrow on Wednesday. He is trying his best to line everything up for this peace agreement. Now, don't forget, the Arab Summit was just held on the 29th of March, just last week. And our representative, Jason Greenblatt, went there and was mixing and mingling with the Arab leaders there. al-Sisi and Abdullah support this, along with Saudi Arabia, along with the United Arab Emirates. They all are wanting to come together for a regional peace agreement, and peace between Israel and the Palestinians would be done in the context of a larger agreement. So the Palestinians aren't out there hanging by themselves. They now have the support of their Arab brethren. And at their summit that they just held last week, they didn't condemn the possibility of a peace agreement at all. As a matter of fact, they encouraged it. It looks like the time for a peace agreement has arrived. Now, that is not a prediction. I'm following it close, but it certainly looks like it has arrived. And let me remind everyone, if they do sign this peace agreement, I think they're going to try to do it by September. If they do, the Bible says that will mark the beginning of the final 7 years to the Battle of Armageddon and the second coming of Jesus Christ to this earth. I want to get to the phones right now. Emily is calling from South Carolina. Emily, welcome to End of the Age.
Thank you, Pastor Baxter. I just wanted to know your thoughts on Susan Rice. She gave the approval, I guess it was back before, the elections, to get the names of the people, the data collection and all, to unseal the names. What are your thoughts on that? And also, wasn't she involved somehow with the Brookings Institute? I mean, she's not a very nice lady, right? Plus,
yes.
I think she even moved in with Obama. I mean, not moved in, but, moved her offices located there with Obama.
Actually, you've got two different people here. You're talking about Obama's right-hand lady all during his administration.
Yes.
And I'll think of her name in just a moment.
It wasn't Susan Rice?
No, that was not Susan Rice.
Oh.
That's a lady that was born in Iran.
Oh, the one that was in Iran, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But both of them have been very close to President Obama. Let me reiterate, and I'm glad you brought this up, because what happened was Strobe Talbott is the one who wrote The Birth of the Global Nation. It was published in Time magazine on July the 20th of 1992. And in there he said that national sovereignty as we have known it will cease to exist in the 21st century. Well, 1 year later, President Clinton brought him to the White House to serve as Deputy Secretary of State for the next 7 years. When Clinton left office, Talbott had to get a new job. Well, he was able to obtain a very wonderful job from his vantage point. It was the president of the Brookings Institute. And the Brookings Institute was founded in 1921 as part of the goal to eventually enslave America. The Brookings Institute has become America's #1 liberal think tank. And remember, Talbott said, in the 21st century, national sovereignty will cease to exist. We'll all answer to a single global authority. Well, 2 years later, Susan Rice joined the Brookings Institute, serving under Strobe Talbott. And so she came as a senior fellow for foreign affairs. Well, when Barack Obama wanted to run for office for president, he called Strobe Talbott and said, Strobe, do you have anybody that would be good for a foreign affairs advisor for me? He said, I got just the person for you, Susan Rice. So now then, Susan Rice, who shares the opinion of Talbott that national sovereignty should cease to exist, she now goes to be the foreign affairs advisor for Barack Obama during his campaign. Well, they win. And then Obama sends her to be our ambassador to the United Nations to preach the message there that national sovereignty should cease to exist. We should all melt into a single one world governmental system, which she did. Well, then in his second term, he replaced her with another ambassador to the United Nations, Samantha Powers, but he brought Susan Rice to the White House to serve as national security advisor that she did until the end of his administration. It was in that role that she apparently had approved the unmasking of many of the people of the Trump campaign. This is a big story on the Drudge Report today. And so that's Susan Rice, and she was, if she knew, then Barack Obama knew, no doubt about it. You know, there's been a lot of backlash from Trump saying that Obama wiretapped Trump headquarters. Well, it must not have been a wiretap, but nevertheless, what happens is when people are under surveillance, let's say a person talks to someone out of the country on the phone. Well, the government is allowed to surveil that and to listen in. When they listen in, if there's an American on the line, they're not allowed to publish their name in the intelligence report. They are to black it out. Well, apparently, the only way they can publish their name is to get a warrant to release it. Well, if they do publish the name of American, that's a felony. So it is absolutely possible that Susan Rice could end up being charged with a felony if this thing comes down with all of its fury that's happening right now. And now it's not considered so crazy when Trump said that his Trump Tower was under surveillance, because it obviously was. And little by little, the testimony is dribbling out. And now it looks like the dam is about to break. So it's going to be very interesting the next few days to see what else we find out.
Yes, for sure. All right. Well, thank you so much, and love listening to your program. And God bless you.
Yeah, thank you, Emily. And, you know, another thing that's so interesting, the Democratic Party has accused Trump and his candidacy of having relations with Russia. Well, now then, what we're really finding out is it was the Democrats that were wiretapping, or at least were surveilling with one means or another. So the very thing that they were accusing the Republicans of doing is what they themselves were doing. And they were doing this during the campaign. What this is then, that is a sitting administration spying on a political opponent during a presidential campaign. Really, and I'm not wishing ill on anyone, this could become a greater story than Watergate. We're going to have to see where all this goes. And the Democrats want to continually talk about Russian interference with our presidential election. But they're talking about it because they're trying to drown out the news that's coming from the fact that now that it's being discovered that they were surveilling the Trump campaign illegally. That is illegal. If they overhear a person talking to a foreign agent, they can create a transcript of that conversation, but they must black out the American's name because we are supposed to be protected against unwarranted searches and seizures. But they apparently did not black it out, but it's been shared far and wide across the Obama administration. So this is a big, big deal. Thank you very much, Emily. Let's go now to Mike calling from Florida. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Pastor Baxter, good to talk to you again, and good afternoon.
Thank you.
I
Good
had
afternoon
a
to you.
question. Yes, sir. I had a question about in Daniel's dream of the statue with the feet of iron mingled with clay. I just came back from a trip from Germany last week, and it came to me perhaps that the clay is referring to the Arabs that are now occupying Europe, since their major homeland is sand.
In my opinion, that cannot be true, and here's why. Number one, the iron mingled with clay has ruled Europe since 800 AD. And it has always been it all started when Pope Leo III put the crown on the head of Charlemagne, saying, "I now crown you Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire." And so Europe has been ruled by an alliance between the most powerful leader of Europe, political leader, and the most powerful religious leader of Europe, the Pope. That's the way it's been for 1,000 years. This is depicted in the end time in Revelation 17 in another way. It shows a woman riding on the back of the European beast, the seven-headed, ten-horned beast. Well, the woman there's 6 clues as to her identity. And one of the prominent clues is that she sits on a city of 7 hills. Well, Rome is the city of 7 hills. But every single clue fits Rome perfectly. So from all that information, I do not believe that the Arabs living in Europe can fulfill that passage.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Good question, though. Now we're up against a break. All of you that are on the screen, stay right there where you are. We do have open lines. If others want to jump in, the number to call to be on the air with me, 877-END-TIME. And let's just say that we do get a peace deal within the next 4 or 5 months. Now, that's what the aim is. They're hoping by September to hold an international conference on the Middle East, and they want to be able to have a big signing and celebration. If that happens, what's going to happen to you and me? End Time Magazine and End Time Ministry is going to need to be at the forefront. We're going to need to be covering the world with billboards, with magazines, with broadcasts, with television. That means we need more partners. So jump on board. The number to call to be a partner with us, do it now before it's too late. The number to call, 800-END-TIME. Let me tell you today about our exciting Armageddon collection. What does the term Armageddon mean? Why is it so important in Bible prophecy in the last days? And what will happen between now and then? In our Armageddon collection, we cover subjects such as events of the final 7 years, the revealing of the Antichrist, the mark of the beast, and the world's greatest revival just ahead. In this special collection, you will receive the DVD, Seeds of Armageddon, November 29, 2012, our 8-lesson series, From Here to Armageddon, along with a PDF of our 7-year timeline and our informative DVD, First Step to Armageddon, December 23rd, 2016. All of this for your gift of $140 or more, plus the cost of shipping and handling. To order your Armageddon collection, go to endtime.com or call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463. Let's go right back to the phones now. Pamela is calling from Tennessee. Hello, Pamela.
Hi, Reverend Baxter. I have a quick question. I was watching Jay Spicolo, the Jay Spicolo show on Sunday evening. He had mentioned that the most recent United Nations meeting that these countries were arguing back and forth, and he said they're never going to reach a two-state solution if they keep arguing back and forth as you know, as they did at this conference recently, last week I guess it was. But in your opinion, what is your opinion? Do you think Donald Trump at the end of May will possibly sign the waiver to put it off for 6 months, knowing that these people leaders are arguing, or do you think he will still go ahead and not sign the move to Jerusalem from the United States Embassy to Jerusalem, from Tel Aviv? Do you think he will go ahead and not sign it? Do you think he will sign it since they're trying to get it signed, by September?
Well, Pamela, as you know, President Trump promised that he would move the embassy. However, already there's some waffling. If he thinks he has a chance to complete a peace deal, but that moving the embassy would ignite the anger of the Arabs, then I suspect he would be tempted to hold off and at least say, I'm going to hold off for right now until we see if we get a peace deal done or not. Now, but I don't have any inside information, but I just think that there's a strong possibility that he would prefer to move that embassy under the cover of a peace agreement that is achieved. So I do think there's a possibility, even though he should not do it.
Well, if he doesn't sign the waiver, he still can kind of stall until September, can he not, Reverend Baxter? If he doesn't sign the waiver for another 6 months.
Well, if he doesn't sign the waiver, then that will set in motion. And you bring up an interesting point, because just because he signs the waiver doesn't mean that an embassy springs up from the ground like a mushroom overnight. It takes a while to design an embassy, or at least he could use this as an excuse. It takes a while to get all the building in place. It could take several years to build an embassy. So there is a chance maybe that he would not sign the waiver, but at the same time let the Arabs know, now look, if we sign this deal, you don't have anything to worry about. So that's another possibility.
Pardon me, yes, which he could be telling them in a meeting, but we wouldn't know it, but he would be telling them, look, I'm not going to sign this waiver, but just so you know, it takes some time, for us to move the embassy, so we're giving you that time while we're working on this peace agreement. Would you agree with that, Reverend Baxter?
Yeah, and that becomes leverage in negotiation. Yes. If he has leverage like that, if they know if they don't get this done, that he is going to move the embassy, then they know that if he does it, America's a leader, that other nations will probably do it as well, and their whole concept could come unraveled. So that is a real chance, and I'm glad you brought it up, because I hadn't thought of it from that angle. I think that's a very good chance he would do that.
Okay, thanks so much, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you, Pamela. Let's go now to Oklahoma. Jim is calling from Oklahoma. Hello, Jim.
Hello, Brother Baxter. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you very much.
Yes. I was just wanting to ask you in the Revelation where it speaks of Gog and Magog, exactly what that is, and also it speaks of putting a hook in their mouth. Would you explain that to me? I've been lost about that for some time.
Yeah, Gog and Magog is mentioned, first of all, in Ezekiel chapter 38. Ezekiel 38 is a prophecy of the battle of Armageddon. And the Bible says that God will put hooks in Gog and Magog's jaw and bring them down. That means, that's spiritually speaking. Now, the nations of the world will think to invade Israel, to force Israel to withdraw from East Jerusalem at the end of the final 7 years. However, they will think it's their idea, but God said it's going to be His idea. In Zechariah 14:2, God says, and He gathered all nations against Jerusalem to battle. God's going to bring the nations of the world down to Jerusalem, where He is going to execute His judgment against them. Now, Gog and Magog is referred to another time in the book of Revelation, chapter number 20. This reference here, there's another battle of Gog and Magog, which will not happen until the end of the 1,000 years of peace, after Satan is loosed again for a little season. So when you talk about Gog and Magog, the chief prince of Meshech, the Bible also calls him, that's the best clue we have. Meshech, if you look it up in an unabridged dictionary, it says it's the root word for Muscovy or Moscow. So Gog, Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. There's also a Tobol River in Russia. There's a city called Tobolsk, all coming from that same name. So Gog and Magog is Russia, and Russia will be involved in the Battle of Armageddon. That's the reason when we see Russia with a presence in Syria today, Russia's the best friend that Iran has today, supplying Iran with all of its nuclear power. Russia's trying to get a foothold in Egypt right now. So when we see all that, that's just a preparation for the Battle of Armageddon. Does that help out, Jim?
Oh, yes. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, very good. We appreciate the phone call very much. Let's go now to John calling from Michigan. Hello, John.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call, Brother Baxter.
Welcome.
When you were talking about the peace proposal that the Saudi Arabia had put forward and mentioned something about the Palestinian refugee problem, it's my understanding that those refugees are people that would be Palestinians or Arabs that would have fled from Israel during the War of Independence for fear of retaliation. And I had the privilege of going to Israel about 10 years ago, and I had an Arab bus driver, and we discussed that a little bit. And actually, that problem was solved many years ago. Israel passed a law that said if you lived here and you fled fearing retaliation, you can come back, become a citizen, and live here just like anybody else. But the Palestinian Authority put pressure on those refugees and said, no, don't go back. We want to use you, and didn't actually say this, but they were meaning, we want to use you as pawns to negotiate to get this land. And that's what they've been ever since, is those people have just been pawns. Israel would have welcomed them back many, many years ago, and if they don't want them to go back to Israel, then take them into one of the Arab countries. They're really not refugees. They're refugees because the Palestinian Authority wants them to be refugees.
Well, you're right, John, and they have established refugee camps in many different places, and they will not allow people who are born there to leave, because originally there was a few 100,000 of them, but today they've all had kids and grandkids. Until now, they're estimating there may be 3 or 4 million of them. Well, for Israel to take 3 or 4 million back into Israel would be to turn Israel into an Arab state, and they're not going to do that. So the refugee problem is one of the biggest issues they're going to have to deal with in the peace negotiations. Now, what Israel is saying, look, you can come back and live in the Palestinian sector of the Palestinian state that's going to be created, but you cannot come back into Israel. Many of the Arabs say, oh, I still have the key to my home in Tel Aviv, or I have the key to my home in Haifa. But on the other hand, Jews have fled from all over the world, from the Arab countries where they were forced out to Israel, and they had no reimbursement for doing that. So war is a cruel thing, and it has happened. But the refugee problem, nevertheless, they're still keeping it very much alive, and they're going to have to deal with it.
Yes.
Okay, John, thank you very much for the phone call. Let's go now to Indiana. Barb is calling from Indiana. Hello, Barb.
Hi. Can you hear me? For some reason, it seemed like when you clicked on, I kind of lost you a little bit there, but maybe, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you very well.
Okay. All right. My question was, okay, when you talk about the Union of the Nations, from Europe and that, okay, we've got the, mouth of the lion, the feet of the bear, and the body of the leopard, and then we've got the 10 horns of the 10-horned kingdom. So it sounds to me like that 10-horned kingdom is in addition to those other 3 entities. and then the little horn comes up among those 10 horns. I was just wondering if that seems like it's going to be 10 European nations in addition to England, which stepped out, but that's okay because it's still going to come back in. I mean, is my thinking in the right direction?
Yeah, that last beast, there are 4 beasts there. A lion, a bear, a leopard, and then the 10-horned beast, which is an alliance of 10 kings, because it says in verse 23 that the 10 horns represent 10 kings that shall arise. So, but the Bible says the last kingdom will be an alliance of 10 kings. So somehow there'll be one kingdom, but they will have come together. Well, the European Union has done that, only they don't have 10. They presently have 28, soon to be 27, as soon as Britain withdraws. So the 10-horn kingdom, we do not know for sure who will make up this kingdom yet. It will be the last kingdom. It will produce the Antichrist. It will be the power base of the Antichrist. That's what we know. The present chaos in Europe, where Britain is withdrawing, other nations now are wanting to have a referendum to withdraw from the European Union. In this present shakedown, could it be that there will emerge a new union, but it will be a 10-nation union? It looks like that's what's going to happen in one way or the other.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. It almost sounded like it was, the 3 and the 10 nations, but you said it's going to all whittle down to just 10 total then.
Yeah, there will be a 10-nation union. Now, there may be another union. There's actually talk in Europe of a 2-tiered European Union, because some of the nations, their economies are so sluggish, they're not very productive, and they can't keep up with where the faster nations want to go. I'm talking about Germany, France, and others. So there's been talk for several years about having a 2-tiered union with different rules for one than for the other. That could be the type of a situation that would give birth to the 10-horn kingdom as well. We simply don't know quite yet. We'll have to wait and see.
It's interesting to watch, won't it, though? It's interesting to watch God's hand at work, isn't it?
Oh, it is, because it always comes to pass exactly like the Bible says. It's amazing.
Then we step back and look and say, how awesome it really is.
Well, it is awesome, and Jesus said, I tell you these things before they come to pass, so that when they do come to pass, you might believe. I sure appreciate the phone call, Barb. Thank you very much for calling from Indiana. And let me, in the little bit of time we have left, let me say to all of you out there, frankly, I have some anxiousness, because I know when the final 7 years begins that we're going to have the greatest evangelistic thrust the world has ever seen. We're going to need to double and triple our television stations. We're going to need to do so many things. The one thing that could make that possible is new partners. I'd like to ask you, please become a new partner for a very small amount per month. You could do it, but it will mean so much. So why not become a partner? Do that by calling us right now. 800 End Time is the number to call. God bless you all. See you tomorrow.
End of the Age is a production of End Time Ministries. This broadcast will be available on our website, endtime.com, in the archives section. On our website, you'll also find more information about how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. To reach our operators, call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463. End Time Ministries is partner supported. We would like to say thank you to our partners who made this broadcast possible. To do what Matthew 24:14 said, to reach the world with the gospel of the kingdom.